Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. With Glenn Sutherland. This week, my guest is Julie Hoffman. I just looked it up, and Julie was a guest on episode 37 and 38, which is way back. So I really should get her on more often. But anyway, honestly, I want to direct people back to listen to that one, but I'm like, I probably am not even good at talking back then. But because that's so long ago, that's like the start of the podcast. Anyway, Julie, if you want to give everybody an intro to yourself, and then we'll go on with our conversation here.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me, Glenn. You're doing great work out there, changing people's lives. It's really, really cool.
Thanks.
And so it's an honor to be here. I am basically a professional real estate investor. I started out my life like most people do, going to school, going to college, getting good grades, getting into a good career. At the end of my graduate studies, I met my husband, who is Canadian. And so I grew up in Denver, Colorado, went to school in Nebraska, met my husband in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And I like to tell people that he won me in a drinking contest, which
wow.
But in truth, we just, we hit it off, and we're one of those rare stories where we made a long distance relationship work. So before I knew it, I had graduated as a physical therapist. My husband found me a job in Leduc, Alberta, Canada. And I was working away and he was working away. He was, not away, but we were both working hard at our careers. He owned a 3-generation hardware store, A Home Hardware, for all you Canadians know that brand.
Yeah.
And he was in basically golden handcuffs. So, and he was frustrated about that, working 80 hours a week. So one day he went to a real estate investment seminar with the RAIN Group, the Real Estate Investment Network. This is back in 2001. And by then I'm 6 months pregnant with my first child. And he goes to this event and he meets Arlen Dolan, who's still a mentor to me today and friend. And he had a conversation with Arlen, and on his way back from that seminar, he called me. Again, I'm 6 months pregnant, working as a physical therapist. I went to school forever.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. I also had an unfair advantage. I was raised by a real estate investor.
Oh, yeah, nice.
My dad, he did the same thing. He went to school, graduate school, got a law degree, and went into real estate. So I was raised by him. So when my husband called, and this doesn't happen to everybody, okay, so I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
When he called me, he said, we need to invest in real estate. I was very cool about it. I was like, okay, sounds good to me. Because I have really fond memories of my dad being able to stop whatever he was doing, come pick me up at school, or be my guest in our cooking class, which was 50% of our grade, and we always forgot about it at the last minute. Yeah. He was free, my dad.
Yeah.
And of course, I still have an amazing relationship with my 83-year-old dad, who is still this huge real estate investor. He just sold a farm in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And did the, what's it called?
1031 exchange?
1031, sorry. I call it the WD-40. It's kind of funny because I live in Canada. Anyway, he did the 1031 and into another farm in Kansas. He's 83.
Yeah, he's still doing it.
He's just still hustling. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I want to mention that because so many people, and I know you and I'll touch on this when I get to interview you, Glenn.
Yeah.
It's really important to be with somebody that's on board, and it can be challenging for some people. And honestly, it wasn't that challenging for us. So I'm kind of making a long story out of this, but I think it's important to mention,
Yeah, no.
And so my husband worked 80 hours a week. He had no time to look at properties, but I could go to RAIN meetings and I could look at properties. And that's what I did on my spare time. So on my lunch breaks, after work, weekends, I went and looked at houses, like at least 100 houses before we put an offer in on one. And I still have a baby in my belly. And so before too long, within a couple months, we bought 3 houses. And I thought, cool, we got 3 houses. I'm going to have a baby. I'm going back to work because I'd gone to school forever. And I think that's something else that people struggle with, is that it's like, I have this career. How can I leave this career? Right.
Oh, yeah.
So same thing happened. This same thing happens to everybody. You have a baby, you fall in love. I fell madly in love with her, and I knew instantly I wanted to do more real estate because I didn't want to have to spend any time away from her if I didn't have to. We went on to buy 12 more properties with the full support of my husband, and we also had the luxury of maternity leave, full year of maternity leave in Canada. I never went back to my career. I just kept investing in real estate. So
that is actually epic. Most people, they have to go back, and then they work on it, and they work their way out of it slowly. And that's incredible, honestly, that you could just, that 12 years you used it, or 12 months. A 12-year maternity leave would be epic.
And the 12 years maternity leave is probably getting there, Glenn, with all this stuff happening up here that you know about. Anyway, I had an unfair advantage being raised by a real estate investor. So I did not have that fear that a lot of people have. And I also had what I consider to be an unfair advantage because I had maternity leave and my husband had a good enough job that we were able to, that was a safety net. It was a safety net. People often ask me, should I quit my job and go do this full time? And my answer is always like, no.
Right. Not
if you're on your own. And if you and your spouse can make it work, then yes, maybe. So, that's just another thing that I think it's fair to mention. Okay.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I'll just mention my one thing there too, because that's what, like for me to leave my job, I had to wait until you knew it would work. And a lot of people hear me tell the story, like once I left my job, I basically, not do the super cliche, but I 10x'd it. Right. And we just took off. Right. But honestly, if I would have, left my job earlier, it would have been so much more pressure. I would have had to make moves instead of making strategic moves, right? Yeah. So I would have been forced because I needed the income. This way, I built the safety net. I had my oh crap money. And then when I left, I knew if I didn't even do a single transaction, I built up a safety net of I think it was 3 years worth of income that I could I wasn't going to invest it. I was going to keep it in a savings account that I could have access to it. And I could, I had 3 years to make smart moves. And anyway, I'm just repeating what you're saying, but same thing, same story. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
It's huge because when you have that kind of pressure, you make bad decisions.
Yep.
I mean, you don't always make bad decisions, but when you're on the eat to kill pay program, and you've got kids and that kind of kids and mortgages and car payments and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, it can get scary. It can get dicey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So We hit it hard. And within a few years, we had a whole bunch of, we had like 36 properties and 2 more children. And we were introduced to flipping buildings, and we did that successfully and had more babies for a while. And then we ended up entering the recession of the fall of 2007 with a bunch of property that we never expected to hold. Ended up holding it for longer, like I said, than expected. Had all these kids. Fought a really tough battle for 4 years and made a really tough decision to enter bankruptcy protection. So we lost it all. And so that was troubling. That was pretty.
I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the change.
Can I swear on your podcast?
I think I do all the time, or sometimes anyway. But so go for it. Do it.
It was just shitty. It was.
That's not a big swear word.
Yeah, it's not a big one, is it?
Yeah.
But it was awful. That said, we learned so much trying to stay alive. We could have been gone. We could have been out of business. I say this all the time. It bears repeating. We could have been out of business in 6 months, and we lasted 4 years. So in that time, I have a brand. It's called the Street Smart Diva, and we became extremely street smart in that time. Just finding ways to fight and stay alive. We got really tough. So, I know we're supposed to be talking about RSPs today. We will.
We'll talk about whatever we talk about.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about whatever we talk about. If you want to have me come back, I'll totally come back.
Yeah, we'll do it. We got to do this a lot more often.
Sounds good. The thing is that people go through struggle, and if you just, there's this cool country song. I don't know if you know it. I forget who sings it, but it's called "If You're Going Through Hell." Okay. And it says, if you're going through hell, keep on going, because that fire, like what it does to steel, it makes it stronger. And the pressure, like what it does to a diamond, it turns coal into a diamond. And it will make you tough. It will make you smarter if you don't go off the deep end, which can happen too, Yeah. So that's just something really important to me to mention, is that, yes, I have all this experience. We've done 300 deals, over $100 million in real estate. And we were able to fight our way back out of it. We rebuilt another multi-million-dollar real estate investment company. I now coach people, which is really important to me because it kind of helps me. I like to think it helps people avoid getting into tricky situations like I did.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really important. And gosh, there's just so many creative ways to do things, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here and talk to you, is because so many people want to get into the United States, but they don't know how to, right? They think they have nothing. And I'll give you a perfect example, Glenn.
All right, I love it.
Just recently, I was working with this really amazing lady, and she went from full-time to part-time in her job. That's her gradual, steps into the real estate world. And she had worked at this other job for 10 years. And she just realized that she had over $100,000 in registered funds that her job had built up for her.
Yeah. So
that's RSP. So RSP is Registered Retirement Savings Plan. She also has money in a LIRA, that stands for Locked In Retirement Account. She had no idea.
Wow.
And so many people have wealth in their registered funds, but they think they can't touch it. They think they can't use it. And in most cases, they can use it for real estate investing. And there's some tricks to it, which, we should get into.
Honestly, I'm thinking we do a whole nother episode on RSPs, because I think we have enough material here to do like 6 podcasts.
Oh my gosh. I would love that.
Yeah, we do a whole series.
You have to do 6 with me then. Okay,
that's fine. It's a good trade.
Deal. Boy,
Okay. I have some questions I wrote down.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, because as you were talking, stuff comes to me, and I'm sure it came to
Yeah, me too.
listening
I've
too.
got my notepad ready for you.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, I'm going to go back a bit. You're talking about like going through bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Um, how do you build, maybe, no, we're going to skip that question. We'll come back to that one.
Okay.
So if you were to do that again, would you have done it the same way? Would have you done the bankruptcy, or do you think there's a way to save this? I don't know. There's a lot of people right now in a lot of pain. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
that have mortgages that
Yeah.
are so high that these properties don't cash flow anymore.
Yeah.
I've went to some masterminds and I've watched people cry
Yeah.
because their relationships with their wives and stuff are falling apart because of this real estate. And what would you give them for advice right now?
First, I would say you're not alone. It happens to people. It can be really hard on a marriage. My husband and I, in the midst of this, I left out, just some details. I'm surprised we stayed married. We became so divided. And a component of all of this was that we had a partner that had been his best friend for 20 years. He knew this guy longer than he knew me.
Right.
And we are in this turmoil together. So at some point, I just had this knowing, and also just I knew about the money, and I just knew something was off with this guy who controlled the money, our partner.
Okay.
And I'm like, something's not right. He won't answer my questions. It's a lot of money, Jeff. You need to talk to him because he won't talk to me. And Jeff had a tough time with that. That's my husband, who is a saint, by the way, and the best husband and my best friend, and an amazing guy, an amazing father.
Nobody loves those conversations.
No, it was really, really tough. And one night he came out after us battling over this, I would say for at least a month, which is a long time when you're married and you have 5 little kids and you've got this, you're going through hell.
Yeah.
So he had the courage to come out. I remember I was sitting out on the deck, just pouting and drinking, like having probably my 3rd glass of wine. And he came out and he said, I think you're right. It's tough for me to admit this, and we have to do something about it. And that was, we were already in a war. It's like starting a war within a war.
Yeah.
Not fun. Okay. So if I had to go back, because we had people that had invested with us, we had our own money, millions of dollars of our own money, and we had a decent chunk of other people's money as well. I would have asked those people for help. I would have asked them to come on in the boat and row the boat, and let's figure out how to get through this together. I would have asked for cash calls. I would have asked for ways to just keep the boat from sinking, because in the midst of all that, I told you we bought buildings to flip.
Yeah.
And you know what flipping's like. You borrow expensive money for a short time so that you can make big money, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always the plan. Well, 5 buildings, we did that. We made anywhere between $500,000 to $700,000 in one building. Wow. In less than 30 days. That's how smart we were, or how well we were doing. In reality, what was happening is the market was just accelerating. Everything was doubling and tripling in value. This is Edmonton, Alberta in 2000, and between 2005 and 2007. Ask anybody that was there. They know what I'm talking about. And it's what's happened in Ontario.
Yep.
Over a longer span of time. And I think that's most of the people that you're kind of referring to. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, it is exactly. It's kind
of the biggest market that's been hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we borrowed really expensive money. And then I spent 2 years refinancing 100 doors. So taking them from credit card money to putting TD, CIBC, RBC. No, I never got RBC. Yeah, I did. TD, RBC, Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal, Alberta Treasury branches, refinanced all of them. Well, 95 out of 100. I couldn't refinance 5 of them because they were less than 300 square feet, if you can imagine, little shoebox bachelors.
Yeah, those are small.
But it was a feat, let me tell you. So, I was like, okay, we should be okay. We should be okay. And then, but the values kept going down. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars of theft we were dealing with, and just a nightmare, bad buildings. And I thought we could just prop it all up ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We had this group of people, and they're the type of people that would have got in the boat and rowed. I know that now, but I had like this ego, or just, I don't know what it was. And before too long, it was too late. It was just too late. And so I recommend people, if you've got people involved, or you're somebody that's like, I'm going to lose my savings, maybe there is a way to go in there, talk to whoever you're working with. If it's one house, how can we do this together? Do I need to put money in so that the thing doesn't go into bankruptcy? Maybe you need to get a side hustle. Maybe you need to get an extra job. Maybe you need to bring another partner on. I mean, there's usually always a way, especially if you're dealing with like a single family home, or, usually a little bit of a smaller project that you can get involved in. Because what I could have done is I probably could have brought these people, I would just say, listen, we've got to share these expenses while we weather out this storm. I had no idea how long the storm was going to last. And thinking back, I don't even know if it would have worked, but it's worth trying and saying, hey, I don't want to sue you. I don't want to lose my money. I have decent credit. How can I help? How can I help save this thing? And there might be a way to save it. I don't know for sure, but there might be.
So how long was the storm because you refer to it as a storm from 2007. How long did it go until it even sort of balanced and started to turn?
Well, we gave up after 4 years.
So it was still going.
That's what we did.
That's a long haul. That's a long period.
It's a long period. I mentioned, when I had that tough conversation, when my husband, again, was just so courageous to come out and say, we got to do something about this. I was drinking.
Yeah.
I had 5 little kids.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to die. Like, literally wanted to die. My kids kept me alive. For sure. And it's like, it sucked. It just was the worst. I wish I would have thought of that. Hey, everybody, let's row the boat. But I had one of the people we were working with told me he wanted to come and burn my house down. Oof. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got to get, at some point I just had to save myself so that I could hopefully, so that I could survive, really for my kids. And it was tough. Yeah, it was really, really tough.
Okay.
So I feel terrible about the whole thing. Like, it's,
I can tell. And it's still, it was like a long time ago. It was like 15 years ago. Yeah.
I know.
So in this situation, right, you go through bankruptcy, you clean that up, but from my understanding, you won't be able to get mortgages for 7 years, credit cards, a whole bunch of stuff. So how do you go about building a new business from like basically nothing, from starting over? Because I'm sure that they took the properties, took all the stuff. So how do you build this back up?
I was going through all of this turmoil, and it's interesting. You find out who your friends are.
Sure.
And there were so many people who would not talk to me anymore, as if what was going on with me was contagious. God, it might have been. There was one guy, and his name's Darren Weeks. And I had sent out an email, just kind of like, I sent an email to all my contacts, trying to, it was like one last shot to kind of salvage things. And he emailed me back instantly. And Darren Weeks is somebody that's got a very controversial profile. I don't know if you know him, but he's just kind of a controversial guy.
Okay.
But he emailed me back like 10 seconds later. How can I help? And I got on the phone with him. He gave me a job at his company. It's called the Fast Track Group, and he gave me a really high-paying job. And I was just like, when I met with him, I'm like, I'm going through bad times. He's like, yeah, I can tell. And I got your email, and I took him through the whole thing. And he's like, well, come work for me because I know you're a great salesperson, and I am. I'm a great salesperson.
Right.
That's what you and I are at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, but warts and all. He's like, yeah, warts and all. You've been through a lot. And I think that what you've been through could help my company and my team. And so he hired me. And what had happened is we lost our house. It was like this dream home.
Yeah.
On 15 acres just outside of Beaumont, Alberta, just like a really beautiful home. And we lost the home that we had our first 4 kids in. But during just kind of the tail end of before we went into bankruptcy protection, I had got a house, a rent-to-own house from an investor out of Calgary. He just got in over his head, and he's like, "Get me out of this thing." And I was like, "Okay," So I basically did a rent to own, and I moved my little family from our big fancy house into our little blue house in the middle of Beaumont.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to qualify for financing, but I knew I could move into it. And the bankruptcy trustee couldn't touch it because there was no equity in it. Because again, that house was affected from the economy too.
Mm-hmm.
It was like underwater by the time we moved into it, but I didn't worry about that because it was affordable, and I knew that it was going to be my house at some point. And his name was David out of Calgary, great guy.
Nice.
And a good choice to work with me because he was hurting, right? So we moved into it and started over. I worked for Darren at Fast Track for a couple of months, and I was a sales manager. So I was managing Kelowna. I live in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. For any of the US people that don't know where it is, it's a very beautiful place.
Yes.
And I came out here on a site visit from Alberta, and my husband and I had been out here in our heyday because we were making millions of dollars at one point. Keep that in mind. We were making millions, and we would come out to Kelowna and show off our money and, have the best time. Yeah. Anyway, he's having a really tough time at work, and he's also got all of this other stuff going on in the background. And I land in Kelowna, and he texts me, "How is it?" And I said, "Oh, it feels like home." And he said, "Can we move there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but be careful. I'll make it happen."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Great." So we went out within 2 weeks. We found a home, this house that I'm in.
Yeah.
Driving around Kelowna. I just got to clear my throat. I won't.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
We're driving around Kelowna. Kelowna is totally depressed. It's 2012. Not a lot going on. We're driving around trying to find a school. We couldn't find a school to save our lives. We drove around all these areas of Kelowna. We just kept missing them. So we finally make our way over to the west side. We're driving up a hill, and we see a school. We're like, okay, we need a house around here. And so we kept driving up the road, and we see my house that I'm in right now. And I look at it, and there is a big legal size piece of paper on the front door. And I'm like, that's a foreclosure.
Yep.
How did I know that? Because
been there.
So many of my properties have been foreclosed on, which is not funny. It's not funny, but I'm not gonna. Eventually, you gotta laugh. Yeah. Eventually, you gotta laugh about things. So, but it gave me also an unfair advantage, right? So we go and I was like, we call the realtor. We got no business. We've got no business even attempting to buy anything. And God bless my husband. And God, I swear, people, I hope you have spouses and partners that believe in you. We're walking around the house, looking in the windows. We're like, oh, it's big. It's perfect. It'll fit all of us. It's so beautiful. We love Kelowna. And I'm standing up on what's now my back deck, and he's down videoing things and talking. And I'm just standing there with my arms crossed, and I'm like, we can't do this. And my husband said, you'll find a way. You will find a way to buy us this house. I'm
I
like,
love that attitude. Love that attitude.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, I hope that for everybody. And I'm just like, well, okay. You know, it was like, and now it's like, oh, he believes in me. I have to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. So we put an offer on this house. And I'm like, okay, I gotta find somebody I gotta find a way. And I had taken a Ron LeGrand class. Do you know Ron LeGrand?
Yeah, I've taken a Ronald Grant class also.
Yeah, so I took two of his low money down ones down in
I did the online one. His pretty house business, wherever, no money down. Yeah.
yeah, like no money down. And so Mark Loeffler, you must know Mark Loeffler.
Yeah, I know Mark.
He wrote a book to kind of Canadianize what Ron teaches, which is basically rent to own.
Right.
And I just done a rent to own in my little blue house that I moved into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this rent. So what we discovered is this house was in bankruptcy. It was, it was in foreclosure. It was owned by the bank for 3 years vacant,
Ooh.
which is unheard of these days because
Right.
Kelowna is absolutely rocking.
Right.
Anyway, I said, suddenly it came to me, I could do Mark Loeffler. It's called Rent to Own in Canada, the book. So go get it if you don't have it already. He introduced me to this concept of tenant first rent own, where the tenant picks the house and an investor buys the house. So I was like, that's what I can do. That's what I can do.
Right.
Okay. So I put together a whole presentation. I had a friend, and he was always saying, hey, if you have any real estate deals, let me know. He was like always saying this to me. His name's Richie. He's just the best. And I said, okay, Richie, I got a deal. And so and I'm a salesperson. I have a whole sales process. I have a presentation, all this kind of stuff. And I said, okay, here's what I have. Is there any reason you wouldn't, this is the question I always ask people when I sell, is there any reason you would not want to move forward on this property? I showed him like how much money he would make and the details. And I even pretended like it was for somebody else. But at one moment I said, yeah, it's a really nice family. They have 5 kids. They're from Beaumont. They're moving to Kelowna. He's like, wait, this is you. I'm like, yeah. So he's like, it was great. He said, yeah, I'll do it. And I couldn't believe it. I was floored. So he and another guy combined resources and credit, and they bought this house for me as a rent to own. And I bought it back from them. It took 8 years. And they did extremely well. Okay, they did extremely well. I want you to know. And we did extremely well. They bought us our house because, yeah, we were wrecked. Credit wise.
Okay, so with this, I'm going to ask a couple questions because
I'm sorry, such a long story.
No, it's good though. It's a good story and it's emotional. I think it's going to touch a lot of people because a lot of people are in tough spots right now.
Yeah.
But typically, I do rent to owns all the time, or lease options, or contracts for deeds.
Yeah.
So I do different ways of doing this in the U.S.
Yeah.
But typically, they're 3 years. Right. So when you structured yours, did it start with a 3 or a 5 year, and then you had to do an extension, a 5?
Started with a 5.
And then when you did the extension, did they renegotiate the purchase price? Because I'm thinking over those 5 years, the market probably changed. So at that point, does the end purchase price change as well when you do renegotiate the 5-year mark?
Yep. I went right to them with, hey, would it be okay if we extended this? And they said to me, yeah, will you pay us more money? I said, yes. They said, how much more? I said, how about this more? How about this much more? And they said, okay.
Yeah.
I had made all the payments. I had paid all the taxes. I had made sure all the utilities were done. We'd put $50,000 into the house to make it more valuable. They were happy. They were so happy. Yeah.
Honestly, that's what I like. Those are my favorite investments.
Yeah.
Even if some of them aren't as profitable as some of the other crazy ones, but the ones where the tenants pay, you don't worry about stuff. Like those are gold. I would keep those over any of the other ones, even that make more money all day long.
Yeah. Well, and that's okay. So this is something people can do. Like there are so many motivated sellers out there,
Oh
and
yeah.
nobody thinks they can get into the market, but you could take over somebody's problem. All we did was we bought it from the bank. The bank didn't want it anymore. Banks don't like owning property. They like renting their money.
Right.
So, yeah, it worked out really, really well, not only for us, absolutely for them too. And we continue to work with them because we pay them very well, and they are awesome guys. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
So my next question is your business. So you've now went
Okay.
from bankruptcy, you fixed your home, and then how do you start growing your business, and how long do you have to wait, and what kind of strategy? I'm guessing you had to be creative when you don't have any credit to get going with this.
Totally. So what's really interesting is I was very open about what I was going through and what I had been through, and just like telling people, yeah, like I'm still in bankruptcy protection because it took me a while to get out of it.
Right.
It can take people a while. And I would also say, we went through this, and we also learned all of this because some parts of it worked. Some parts of it obviously didn't. But there were so many lessons that we learned. And then most importantly, me talking about what I went through brought people out of the woodwork who were going through it. And what I fortunately was able to do is buy a lot of property in Kelowna and West Kelowna from motivated sellers, because I talked about what was going on with me and I was able to relate to them. And like a perfect example, this girl named Lisa, she was in trouble and she wanted to move, and she had this condo and it was underwater. And I'm like, I'll do a lease option with you. I will buy it for what's owing on it at the end of 5 years. I don't know what's happening with this market, because at the time it was really unstable.
Yeah.
And that turned out really well for me because the property the property value skyrocketed. And it turned out really well for her because she didn't go into foreclosure. Her parents were off her back because they were on the mortgage. She could just move on. And I did that over and over and over again. So we built this portfolio that was strong cash flow and always some profit happening. And then on top of that, we did buy a few properties with the tenant first strategy with investors who wanted certainty at the end of their, or as much certainty as we could give them at the end of, at the end of the term. And see, I'd done this. So what's really cool is when you do these creative strategies and they work, it's not hard to get partners who will work with you, because then you have a track record. So I would go to people and say, I'm literally living in a house right now that I don't own yet, but I use this strategy and it's working phenomenally well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, within 2 years, we had probably $6 million of real estate without any of our own money, without any of our own credit. And everything cash flowed. So that's how we rebuilt our business. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It worked out.
Awesome.
It worked out well. We were really, really lucky. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great story. Honestly, that was a great. I love stories more than but we're gonna have to have you come back, and we'll do a speed talk, because what we were gonna talk about was like raising money through RSPs. But honestly, if you talk to a lot of people who've been on my podcast, we always come up with the topic that before they start, And I usually railroad it. We go do something completely different. So it's not uncommon, but this was amazing. Julie, if people wanted to find out more about Street Smart Diva, if they wanted to find out more about you, about everything else you're doing or your groups, how do they find you? What are your channels? What are your spots?
So I'm on Facebook at Julie Hoffman. And then I'm at streetsmartdiva.com or Street Smart Diva on Instagram. Julie Hoffman on LinkedIn. I'll just give you all my links.
I'll just drop it in the show notes.
And then the best way to keep in touch with me, because I put out as much free content as I can, is to join my email list. I'll give you the link for that. Sure. And then there's ways to talk to me in person if you want to. I'm happy to talk to anybody and, help them out as much as I can. And so the free tools, though, when you join my email list, you'll get a list of free tools. And I use them all the time, and they work. Man, they work, and they will help you get from A to B. I know people who have used my free tools, and they get deals. So good. There's no risk here at all, and no catch. I do put out some stuff, for sale here and there, but for the most part, it's just a real joy to go through what I did and to be able to help people. Because if I can go through what I did and be where I am now, anybody can, I promise. Anybody.
Yep. Yeah. It's like what you're saying was it, if you're going through hell, keep on going.
Keep on going. Oh, I'll get you the link to that YouTube video. Like, man, if you're going through hell, just listen to that song 3 times a day.
I love it. Well, Julie, thank you for coming on the show. Like I said before, great interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. It's been great talking to you. I really appreciate it.
That was a nice video. Bye.